Did you know there's a scientific way to delete lower belly fat that has nothing to do with how much you eat? Researchers discovered that certain foods can reduce visceral fat by up to 30%, even when people ate the same amount of calories. And no, it's not about going keto, it's not about fasting, it's definitely not about doing more cardio. I've been studying this stuff for 20 years, and this research completely changed how I help busy professionals lose that stubborn gut. Stick with me because I'm going to show you the exact foods that trigger your body to release belly fat and why this might be the easiest fat loss approach you've ever tried. My name's Tyson Johnson, and for the last 20 years, I've helped hundreds of busy professional dads, guys who are VPs, CEOs, attorneys, executives, get to 10 to 15% body fat and actually stay there. These are men who are crushing it with their careers, but for years put their health on the back burner. If that sounds like you, you're in the right place. Let me start with what most guys over 35 are doing right now that's keeping them stuck. You're cutting calories harder and harder. You're doing endless cardio sessions, eliminating entire food groups, or jumping from one trendy diet to the next. And what happens? Maybe you lose a few pounds on the scale, but that lower belly fat, it barely moves. You get frustrated, maybe you blame your age or your genetics, and you eventually quit because it feels like your body is fighting you every step of the way. But here's the truth. Your body is fighting you, but not for the reasons that you think. The real problem isn't your willpower, and it's not just your age. You've been focusing on the wrong things entirely. You've been told to obsess over calories when what really matters is how your body processes and stores the food that you eat, especially as you get older. Understanding this difference is what separates the guys who finally lose that belly fat from the guys who stay stuck spinning their wheels for years. But before we dive into the solution, let's clear up a huge misconception that's probably costing you results. When we talk about belly fat, we're actually talking about two completely different types. Type 1 is called subcutaneous fat, and this is the soft fat just under your skin that you can pinch. It's annoying, but it's not dangerous. Type 2 is visceral fat. This is the deeper fat that wraps around your organs inside your abdomen. You can't pinch it, but it's the most dangerous for your health and it's the hardest to lose. Both types can accumulate in your belly, but visceral fat is what we're really targeting here. It's the fat that's most strongly linked to heart disease, diabetes, and metabolic problem. And for men over 35, visceral fat is usually the most stubborn belly fat and the last to go. So here's what the research shows about why this gets harder as you age. Men are biologically wired to store more visceral fat than women, especially after our 30. Even if your weight stays exactly the same, the studies show that visceral fat can increase by over 200% between your 30s and your 60s. Why does this happen? First is hormonal changes. Your testosterone drops on average by 1% a year after 30, while cortisol, your stress hormone, tends to rise, especially if you're a busy professional with a lot of demands. Both of these changes make it easier to store fat around your organs and harder to burn it off. Second is insulin resistance. Over time, your body becomes less sensitive to insulin. This makes it much harder to access stored fat for energy and much easier to store new fat, especially in your midsection. And third is metabolic shutdown. Your metabolism naturally slows as you age, but it's not just about burning fewer calories. Your body actually changes how it processes different types of food. And here's the scary part. Visceral fat isn't just sitting there doing nothing. It's metabolically active tissue, pumping out inflammatory chemicals and hormones that mess with your insulin sensitivity, lowers your testosterone even more, and increases your risk for heart disease and diabetes. Large population studies show that men with more visceral fat, measured by waist circumference, have nearly double the risk of dying early compared to those with less. But here's the good news. Visceral fat actually responds better to the right dietary approach than subcutaneous fat because it's more metabolically active. So the key is knowing how to send the right signals to your body. So why doesn't just eating less work for most men over 35? Because your body doesn't treat all calories the same, especially as you age. Here's what actually matters. The insulin response. When you eat foods that spike your blood sugar, your body releases insulin to handle it. But over time, this leads to insulin resistance, which essentially locks away stored belly fat and makes it almost impossible to access for energy. Another thing that matters is the type of calories. Here's a perfect example. 500 calories from a bagel versus 500 calories from eggs and vegetable. The bagel gets digested quickly, it spikes your blood sugar, and it triggers a big insulin response and leaves you hungry again in a few hours. Whereas the eggs and the vegetables keep your blood sugar stable, keeps you full for hours, and it doesn't trigger fat storage. Another thing that matters is the metabolic cost. So different foods require different amounts of energy just to digest and process them. This is called the thermic effect of food, and it can make a huge difference in your daily caloric burn. So as you get older, your body becomes much more sensitive to these differences. The wrong foods make it almost impossible to lose belly fat, no matter how much you restrict calories. But the right foods can actually make fat loss feel much more automatic. So let me show you the 3 strategies that actually work, backed by real science. Strategy number 1, the satiety index. Eat foods that keep you full. So back in the 1990s, researchers in Australia created something called the satiety index. They fed people equal calorie portions of different foods and measured how full they felt over the next few hours. What they discovered was game-changing. Some foods are up to 7 times more filling than others, even with identical calories. The winners, boiled potatoes, scored 323%, over 3 times more filling than white bread. Fish scored 225%. Oatmeal scored 209%. Oranges and apples both scored around 200%. The losers, croissants scored just 47%. Cakes scored 65%. Cookies and pastries were all under 100%. So what made the difference? 3 factors: protein content, water content, and fiber content. Foods high in these kept people full for hours. Foods high in fat and sugar left people hungry quickly. So think about this practically. If you eat a croissant for breakfast, you'll be hungry again in 90 minutes and probably overeat for lunch. But if you eat eggs and some fruit, you'll stay satisfied for 4 to 5 hours and naturally eat less throughout the day. For busy professional dads, this is huge because you're not wasting mental energy fighting hunger all day, like with a traditional diet. You're satisfied, so you can naturally make better choices without relying on willpower. So strategy number 2, the thermic effect of food. Burn more calories by eating. Here's something most people don't know. Your body burns calories just digesting food, but different foods require vastly different amounts of energy to process. The research shows fat, your body burns only 0 to 5% of fat calories during digestion. Carbohydrates, your body burns anywhere from 5 to 15% of carb calories during digestion. And protein, your body burns anywhere from 20 to 35% of protein calories during digestion. So if you eat 100 calories of protein, your body automatically uses anywhere from 20 to 35 of those calories just processing it. That's nearly 10 times more than fat, but it gets better than that. This thermic effect lasts for hours after you eat. Studies show your metabolism stays elevated for up to 6 hours after a high-protein meal. This is why higher protein diets, within reason, consistently outperform lower protein diets for fat loss, even when total calories are the exact same. You're literally burning more calories throughout the day just by choosing different foods. And for men over 35, protein becomes even more critical because it helps preserve muscle mass as you lose weight. Every pound of muscle you keep burns calories 24/7, even while you sleep. So strategy number 3 is meal timing and insulin sensitivity. What you eat matters. Here's where it gets really interesting. Recent research shows that when you eat can be just as important as what you eat for losing visceral fat. Studies on time-restricted eating show that narrowing your eating window, say eating all your meals within 8 to 10 hours instead of grazing all day, can significantly improve insulin sensitivity. And better insulin sensitivity means your body can actually access stored belly fat for energy. Most of my clients eat 3 to 4 meals a day between noon and 8 or 9 p.m. This gives their body 14 to 16 hours where insulin levels stay low and they can tap into fat stores. But here's the key. This only works if you're eating the right foods during that window. If you're eating high satiety, high protein foods, you won't feel as hungry during the fasting period. If you're eating processed foods and sugar, you'll be miserable. The researchers showed this approach can reduce visceral fat specifically, even when people don't lose weight on the scale. That's because they're losing dangerous belly fat while maintaining muscle mass. All right, so let's get practical. Here's exactly how to structure your eating. Build every meal around these high satiety, high protein food. Eggs, which has 150% satiety index and a 30% thermic effect. Fish, especially white fish like cod, 225% satiety index. Lean beef and chicken, which is high in protein and very filling. Greek yogurt and cottage cheese, which has protein and probiotics. And you can look up other proteins on the list. Add these high satiety carbohydrates. Boiled potatoes, which has a 323% satiety index, which is the highest of any food tested. Oatmeal, which has a 209% satiety index. Brown rice and quinoa, beans and lentils, which are high in fiber, high in protein. And look up other foods as well. Then fill up on these high volume, low calorie foods. Pretty much all vegetables, especially leafy greens, broccoli, and pepper. Fruits with high water content like oranges, apples, and berry. Soups and stews. The water increases volume without calories. So the timing structure, eat your first meal around noon and then have your last meal by 8 or 9 p.m. Eat 3 to 4 meals during this window. Drink water with every meal, and then follow the 80-20 balance. Here's what makes this sustainable. My clients enjoy pizza, ice cream, and French fries twice a week with their family. This isn't cheating, it's strategic. That's what I mean by 80-20. 80% of the time you're on track, and then 10 to 20% of the time you get to enjoy those foods. These higher calorie meals help reset leptin, which is your hunger hormone, and makes the process sustainable long term. The key is being consistent with high satiety foods 80% of the time, not perfect 100% of the time. And here's what's amazing. When you eat this way, you don't need to count calories. The research shows that people naturally eat fewer calories when they choose high satiety index foods, but they don't feel hungry or deprived. One of my clients, Teamston, was a CEO who traveled constantly for work. Once we switched him to this approach, he lost 25 pounds in 4 months while rarely feeling hungry, and has been able to maintain 11% body fat past his year mark, even during stressful business trips and with a family of 5 kids. Now, let me be completely honest with you about expectation. Lower belly fat is going to be the last place that your body releases belly fat from. It's stubborn. This is just biology. Your body sees visceral fat as emergency reserves and holds onto it as long as possible. But here's what you need to understand. If your waist measurement is going down, if your clothes are fitting better, if you're feeling more energy, you're on the right track. Your body is releasing visceral fat. It's just starting from other areas first. So the key metrics that you want to track is waist circumference. Just measure it weekly with a tape measure. How your clothes are fitting, your energy levels throughout the day, and progress photos monthly. You want to measure body fat percentage, and your goal is 10 to 15% if you're a man. If these areas aren't improving after 4 to 6 weeks, here's the hard truth. You're probably eating more than you think. Research studies show that people underestimate their food intake by 30 to 50% on average. That small handful of nuts could be 300 calories. That little bit of salad dressing could be 200 calories. But if you're following this approach consistently, eating high satiety foods, getting enough protein, timing your meals properly, and your measurements are trending down, then trust the process. Visceral fat responds well to the right approach, but it takes months, not weeks. If you want a complete system with meal plans, workouts, and one-on-one transformational coaching on a pay-for-results basis, I've created a program specifically for busy professionals, business owners, and execs. 96% of our customers who follow our program, they lose 10 to 20 pounds or 3 inches off their lower belly fat in just 12 weeks. And that's just milestone number 1 in our program. Most clients work out just 20 to 30 minutes a day. They eat 3 to 4 satisfying meals, and they still enjoy pizza or whatever their comfort food is twice a week in moderation with their families, while reaching 10 to 15% body fat and their lean goal weight. That's milestone number 2. We then help them shift to maintenance and even phase 2 muscle growth. The full link is in the description. So let me leave you with the 3 key principles that will change everything for you. Focus on food quality, not just quantity. The type of calories you eat matters just as much as the number, especially as you age. Number 2, use the satiety index and the thermic effect of food aren't gimmicks. They're research-backed tools that make fat loss sustainable instead of miserable. And then number 3, trust the process. Your body will release that stubborn belly fat, but it takes time and it takes consistency. Track your progress, stay patient, and give it the months it needs. For most professionals, their health got to where it's at over the course of years or even decades. That isn't just magically fixed in a few weeks. If you implement what I've shown you today, you will get the results that you're looking for. It's not about perfection, it's about consistency with the right approach. Be sure to give this video a like if you got value out of it, and if you want to see the strategies on how to get rid of your belly fat and get lean over 40, then check out my other video here. I'll pin it for you.